Good afternoon from the Circuit of the Americas here in Austin, in Texas, for the Trofeo Pirelli Race 1 of our 2019 season. The cars are about to grid up and make their way out on for their first 30-minute race of a very long season ahead of them, where, of course, each and every driver has ambitions of that championship win. If the Trofeo Pirelli racing this season is half as exciting as it was last season, we are in for a blisterer, that's for sure. So the first event of the year, the Circuit of the Americas. And alongside me, Shay Adam.
And let's take a lap of the Circuit of the Americas with our race director, Didier Thays.
Hi, my name is Didier Thays. I'm the head coach of the Ferrari Challenge North America, and we are here in COTA, Circuit of the America, for the first race of the season. All right, we're on a front straightaway going up the hill, a very steep hill. Doesn't look like on the screen, but it's very steep and a very, very hard braking for turn one, down to second gear, very tight hairpin on the left-hander. You know, you get a little bit of off camber, you know, at the acceleration. You're gonna see some cars going sideways a little bit, back on throttle, third, fourth, fifth gear, right under, you know, very fast, you know, fifth gear corner on turn number two, turn number three, enter in fifth. Turn number 4 in fifth, and then slow down a little bit for turn number 6, which is in fourth gear. A right-hander who's getting actually tighter at the exit for turn 7, down to third gear. Very beautiful area of the track. You go a little bit on the curb, you go up the hill, you know, in corner number 8. You know, you use the full track at the exit, because after that you get one left-hander, which is turn 10, which is flat with our car. A lot of downforce in those 488 challenge, and back down to the very tight hairpin at turn 11. Very important to make a very nice and clean exit, because you have a long straightaway coming after that, and of course you make up a lot of time in the straightaway if you have a good exit after that corner, turn 11. Go down on the straightaway, you go up the hill a little bit kind of a hiding corner at the end, which is turn 12, also a very hard braking, down to third gear this time. This corner is, you know, very important, you know, you know, if you have good balance, you know, you end up in a very tight area of the track, you know, turn 13, 14, 15, all those turns are done in third gear. Early on the throttle, go up to fourth gear for turn 16, and then to third gear again for the tight corner on the left-hander. You end up in a very technical part, you know, of the track, you know, with a triple right-hander, turn 17, 18. Of course, you're in fifth gear in those corners. You can see here, following those cars together, the line is quite wide at the exit, and is there braking here for turn 19. That turn 19 always faster than you think. Every time you show up there, you think you have to brake hard, but actually the exit is quite open, and you keep the momentum for the exit. And of course, the last turn of the track, turn 20, will also generate a front straightaway where you need to have a good acceleration to get good top speed on the front of the pit lane.
So Didier Thays describing the action, but not actually driving it.
No, that was Mark Muzo. Thank you very much for giving us a lap, and he is on the grid for today's race.
Cooper Mcneal, pole position in P1, alongside him Benjamin Hittez, and then Jim Wyland from row 2, and it's P3 for him. Thomas Tipple up from the Cooper Shell Series into Trofeo Pirelli for this year, goes from P4, with Fuller P5, and P6 goes the way of Burrows. But Fuller, of course, the best of the AM drivers to show. Murray Rotlander, then it's Ross Chwest going from P8. Mark Muzo, P9, Joseph Rubo, then Barry Zeckelman, and Kaminsky is P12 as we scroll through our starting grid for this, the first race for Trofeo Pirelli. Marici, Musial, then it's Holden, and John Maygrue with Gandor bringing up the rear then on row 9, going from P17. Grid available to you at races.ferrari.com, and already the cars are out on their formation lap.
They are, and they're at the point of the track where they're going to have to start going 2 by 2. You really liked when I said Noah's Ark style earlier,
I thought it was very impressive.
And it is where the race director has said, as you come through the long triple right-hander, as Didier Thays, the driving standard steward for race director Todd Snyder, just told us a little bit earlier on, this is a tricky part, but it sets you up nicely for the 1920 complex when then you come back onto the front straight, and it's a long hold before you see the green flag, because the green flag is almost 3/4 of the way down the start stretch. The checkered flag will be right at the exit of turn 20, though.
All the social media at the top of the screen for you to be part of the Ferrari Challenge. It is the Trofeo Pirelli race that is about to get underway. Two classes. We have the Trofeo Pirelli Pro drivers and then the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers as well, as they approach that final turn number 20. And this is when the excitement starts to build and the anticipation. And what can Benjamin Hitez do against Cooper Mcneal?
There's a lot of stacking going up further in the field, and the car is not allowed to make a pass until they cross the start-finish line, which they still have a long way in front of them. But Cooper Mcneal will bring them to the green flag.
So the flag goes green. Cooper Mcneal then accelerates as they head up that extraordinary 133-foot climb into turn number 1, and Mcneil has made P1 all his own from that pole position. There are multiple entries and exits to that first turn, and almost each and every one of them was used then, as we could see there. So the cars will begin to settle down on this, the start and opening lap. We could just see Kaminsky there in the number 19 car, but Cooper Mcneal, he'll do exactly what he needs to do, which is to stretch his legs in the early stages of this race.
30 minutes were on the clock when the green flag flew, and the good news is all of our starting cars will have 30 minutes to race because they all made it through turn 1. Many different options, as you were just saying, many different options taken. But for Cooper Mcneal, an ideal start. And for Benjamin Hitez, the young man from Chile, he's doing everything he needs to hold the rest of the field behind him.
Thomas Tipple coming under a bit of pressure now. Thomas Tipple currently running in at P4 place. So the Jim Wayland car, and there you can see the number 46 car as we scroll through the pack. That of Burrows, a Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale. So the car's going through the first turns with no skirmish, no contact at all. And whilst all that's going on, Cooper Mcneal is just stretching his legs and moving his way forward. So there in P2 is Benjamin Hitez, Jim Wayland. Then it is Thomas Tipple and Mark Fuller, and Martin Burrows and Murray Rotlander and Russ Twest in that number 25 car.
Mark Fuller has fallen down behind Murray Rothlander in the number 10. The 10 is a car that stands out very well because it almost looks like Spider-Man. It's got this wonderful chrome reflective livery on it. And Martin Fuller's white and blue Ferrari from Scuderia, of course, the pole sitter for the Trofeo Pirelli AM category, is behind the 10. So that drops him down to about 7th place off the start. Not an ideal start, but the good news was he had quite the cushion over the rest of cars in his class.
Yes, that's a very good point. So Jim Wayland out on his own a little bit in that number 18 car, which I was explaining. I spoke to Jim earlier on, and he said, yeah, it's an unfamiliar livery, normally in a sort of a lilac and silver colour. Thomas Tipple, when I spoke to him earlier on, he's running in P4 at the moment. He was saying he was, he's had a huge elevation because he was so successful in Copa Shell, elevated into Trofeo Pirelli Pro, and he said, this is going to be hard work for me, Dave. Actually performing really rather well, certainly in qualifying and running in P4 at the moment, although Burrows is beginning to place some pressure on him as well. Twest, of course, is running in P6, Murray Rotlander P7, by dint of what you said of Mark Fuller dropping down the order. And
we should also say, in case you're perhaps joining us for the first time to this series, welcome along. And you can tell the cars apart based off of their shade bands. If it's red, it means that they are in the top category. If it's white, it means that they are in the amateur classes. And it's no difference between the cars. They are all the same turbo 488 Ferrari. By the way, turbo new to the series as well for the 488 iteration of the Ferrari, the 6th different kind of car that's run in Ferrari Challenge. But they're all the same. The driving talent, the driving standard, the speed that you're capable of putting down, that determines what class you run in. And that's part of the reason that Thomas Tipple, who was a bit of a rookie sensation last year, has found himself fighting amongst the biggest competitors he could. And a phenomenal character as well, Thomas Tipple. So, we'll see how he does now in this new elevation of Trofeo Pirelli. You're right to mention the fact that as Jim Wayland comes under pressure from the very man that we were talking about, Thomas Tipple there. The first iteration in the Ferrari Challenge for turbo car ever. I'm just beginning to think how old I am. It was the F430 was the car of the Challenge choice when I started. Okay, move on, Dave. Cooper Mcneal, 2.1 seconds to the good up the road.
So Cooper Mcneal doing a great job. And at the moment, I would have to say, Jim Wayland appears to be the cork in the bottle here.
He really does. There's a long line of cars, 3 directly behind him, and then another one further back. And for Jim Wayland, it must be that the car is a different color. That must be exactly
It's got to be
why.
it. Yep, got to be it.
Still running in the 3rd position, early days yet, but for Jim Wayland, we're used to seeing him a little bit further up the field. He is what I call a Ferrari racing addict. If there is a prancing horse on the front of it, chances are Jim Wayland will drive it, but he'll also put a little sticker on it.
Yep.
That's for cruelty-free. He's a big proponent of PETA and all the work that they do trying to help benefit the world, keep the world a better place.
Well done, Jim. He races not only North America, but has raced in Europe and in the Asia-Pacific region as well. And, of course, the 3 distinct regions of Ferrari Challengers. Thomas Tibble now takes a look at the inside.
Oh, not there.
Yeah, the 3 regions, North America, Asia Pacific. Thomas Tibble may have left himself vulnerable now with his overtake potential against Jim Wayland. He's now got Martin Burrows really, really closer than ever before. And you can just get the impression that both Ross Twest and Murray Rocklander are rubbing their hands thinking, come on, boys, come on, start fighting, and then we can take advantage of it all. Yes, the 3 distinct geographical regions, and we're in North America. Those 3 regions are going to be joined by a new series for 2019 in the UK. So the Ferrari Challenge, the fantastic one-make series, goes from strength to strength. There's an overtake going on here now, diving up the inside.
Ooh, Martin Burrows, who did manage to get around Thomas Tibble, so that's the 46 ahead of car number 1. Martin now wants a shot at Jim Wayland. He's going to have to reel him back in a little bit, but the man racing for Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale, Canadian, is now trying to hunt down Jim Wayland. He's got his work cut out for him.
And Rocklander and Twest were having a battle and an overtake at the same time as that was going on. Whilst all that's going on, Jim Wayland has, anchored himself in that position in P3, and he's not for moving at the moment. So you almost get the impression, whilst he didn't do this, Thomas Tibble thought, well, come on then, if you think you can do a better job, come and have a go.
Exactly.
Neither of them have been able to unsettle the Jim Wayland car for the moment. Cooper Mcneal then, right from the very start of the race, this start, as he headed up towards that turn number 1, made that start his own, did all the hard work in qualifying, of course. Cooper Mcneal, one of the drivers that does an awful lot of racing and knows this 488 car exceptionally well, did a very, very good job at the start, that's for sure. And he's now stretching his legs out front, and as he crosses the timing line again, extends his lead still further, up to 3.065 seconds now. So let's find out what's going on out there. They're engineering Cooper Mcneal really very well. Let's cross down to the pit lane and Mike Massaro.
Yeah, really no surprise seeing Cooper Mcneal out front. After all, he's probably the favorite going into this race day, but he had faced a little bit of adversity at the beginning of the weekend. He came here with a car, his primary, which was previously wrecked in a race. They rebuilt the car and thought everything was right until the first practice, and then realized that maybe something was off. It was overheating, so they went to a backup car. That's what he's driving right now, and it seems to me like that backup car, well, pretty stout in itself.
I would agree with that. It's a very good point you made, because his normal car, he raced in the World Finals at Monza at the end of last year, had a big wreck. You're absolutely right. And yes, Cooper was telling me earlier on how they had to completely rebuild that car, and the damage was much more extensive than even I realised. But even if this is a backup car, it's performing very well for him, because it's proving a 3-second lead over Benjamin Hitez, who is running in P2. So the top 8 places, all occupied by Trofeo Pirelli Pro drivers. Then we have a couple of AMs with Fuller and Zeckelman. The one that's out of sequence, if you like, is Joe Rubo down there in P11 overall.
And that doesn't make sense to me at all, because Joe Rubo is a guy who should be up there battling for the lead. He should be right in the middle of this pack of cars, as a matter of fact. He's a little bit further up ahead, but he should be mired in the middle of a battle for a podium position. Joe, I'm not quite sure what's going on. He's coached by Ryan Eversley, a guy who's more than capable of winning in any type of car, and who has great success at Circuit of the Americas in his past. So for Joe, running a livery on his car, reminiscent of when he won the 458 championship back in 2017, was looking for a stronger start to the season, but not yet getting it here today.
No, as I mentioned earlier on, whilst we were watching that overtake going on, as Jim Wayland now has been overtaken by Martin Burrows. Burrows is up now to P3, Jim Wayland down to P4. Murray Rocklander getting past Ross Twest, who is P7. Mark Musso is P8. The number 72 car that we're looking at the moment, driven by Marici, ahead of Musial and Holden, and those are AM drivers. So across the timing line we come then. Cooper Mcneal then with that just a shade under 3 seconds lead over Benjamin Hietez. And now you can see, since being released from the Jim Wayland cork in the bottle, Martin Burrows is now beginning to really stretch his legs as well. He's in a podium position at the moment, but I just wonder over the course of the next 20 minutes whether he's going to be able to get into the position where he's perhaps challenging Benjamin Hietez for P2. He's got some 7 seconds to make up, so it's a big ask, but he's showing great pace at the moment. He's lapping in the 2:13s. The last lap, though, Cooper Mcneal, 2:12.904.
Forgive me for not knowing the answer to this, but there is a gentleman's cup, is there not, for drivers over a certain age?
Yes, there is, and it's for drivers that are over 55 years of age.
So Martin Burrows might just be satisfied sitting in P3 at this point in time, because that has him winning the gentleman's cup for today's race.
Yeah, it's a very fair point. Very fair point. The other gentleman, of course, Jim Wayland, who is running down there in P4 at the moment. Thomas Tipple not yet been able to get past him, and you know that cork in the bottle effect is still there, isn't there? If you look at Jim, he's got immediately behind him those 4 cars of Tipple, Rotlander, Twest and Musso. Before we see the Mark Fuller car, which is first in class in terms of Trofeo Pirelli, but is running in P9 overall.
Yes, and between himself and Barry Zeckelman is that Joe Rubo car we were speaking of a little bit earlier on. And then Brian Kaminsky in the black and yellow, electric yellow, number 19 car coming into our screen now, just trying to exit it as there's a battle behind him with Ziad Gandauer, who is a bit of a rally driver from what I understand. He's got off-road experience and has the nickname of Z-Hog. I kid you not. He has his hands full.
Got very sideways there, and Todd Marici very nearly able to take advantage of that.
Ooh, that I thought he was going to go all the way around on that one, Dave. It looks like
controlled.
He was. That was impressive.
Well, you can see now he's almost welded to the back, isn't he, of that car. So is there going to be a change going on here? Surely he will feel that the opportunity now, because the what will have happened is that will have perhaps just shaken the confidence a little bit of that car, but it goes through.
And Gandauer's having a really hard time holding on to the back of it as they exited turn 20. There was a lot of movement from the tail of his Ferrari, and it immediately means that the cars behind are able to get a sniff of the opportunity for something bigger.
He could really lose more than one place here as they head up in towards turn number 1. Let's see how well he is able to defend against Musial then. One of the most interesting liveries across a 488 Challenge car that I've seen.
Yes.
As Musial then all over the back of that car, trying to find through turns 2, 3, 4, that sequence of turns there, trying to find a way past, but unable to do so at the moment. As I say, I just think for a moment it just shook his confidence. You know, it was a big, big save, wasn't it?
It really was. And that Musial car, you were just touching on the livery, it's brilliant when you get up close.
Yes.
Of course, it's very reflective and all that, but it's got a snake pattern on the front of it. And Dave Musial, who is the CEO of another air conditioning and heating system operation company out of the Chicago area, he's a Polish import himself. That car says, "Your wife is hot" on the back, get your AC fixed. Brilliant marketing.
Oh, that is good line, isn't it?
It really is.
He'll thank you very much for that little plug, won't he? That's brilliant. Jim Wayland, then, you have to say, has done a remarkable job of defending here, because whatever Thomas Tipple has been able to throw at him, and the thing is, Jim is able to be smooth and calm and collected. The one that's getting frustrated here is Thomas Tipple. Of course, Burrows was getting frustrated as well, but Burrows managed to get past, so Thomas Tipple is the one that's having to really, really work hard. Not having to work so hard is Cooper Mcneal, because he has the... really under control, doesn't he? 3.2 seconds to the good. Benjamin Hietez, what's the situation like between Hietez and Burrows then? It hasn't really closed much, has it? And in fact, Cooper Mcneal, well, his lead now is just 1/1000th under 3.5 seconds. So doing a very, very good job there. And that WeatherTech liveried car
Benjamin Mcneil is the driver we need to really watch in the championship over the course of this entire season, though, because he was third last year with 2 wins, his first year of racing a sports car. So Benjamin, who does a lot of races in Argentina and Chile, which Chile, his home country, he's still new to this American style of racing. Last year, he was taking the rookie stripes off the car. This year, he is looking for something more.
There's Mark Fuller then, Ferrari Silicon Valley, who of course is leading the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers class with Barry Zeckelman P2 and Gandour in P3, just ahead of Kaminsky, who is running P4 in Trofeo Pirelli AM. Oh!
Spinner.
Who
Joe
has
Rubo.
that gone around? Is it Joe Rubo?
It is, in the number 28 Ferrari, the silver and black.
It's going from bad to worse for Joe Rubo today, isn't it?
It really is. You've got to wonder. He's in the Trofeo Pirelli class, which they moved him up to the top step, the top level that he could possibly be in. But the race control does reserve the right to move his classification. He just lost the tail of the car at the start of the S's. That was coming into 3. Very easy place to lose the car. Do have to give Joe credit for that.
Okay.
I speak of experience there in a minivan, but that's okay.
Well, you make a very good point there that they do look at it and they decide where to place drivers based on the speed and the ability that they have shown. And as you say, they do reserve the right to move drivers in and out of the particular classes. And maybe it's been just a too big a step up.
Before that spin, he would have been leading the M category.
Yeah.
And now he'll find himself battling back through to try and catch back up to the rest of the red shade-banded cars, indicating Pro. But Mark Fuller leading the way, nearly 3 seconds ahead of Barry Zeckelman in the car number 99. Another staple of this series is Barry, racing for Ferrari of Ontario, the Canadian, who was very amusing in the drivers' meeting, I have to say. He was quite the jokester.
Yes.
Made me laugh a few times.
And that's, I have to say, that's one of the huge appeals of the Ferrari Challenge, because each and every one of the drivers, setting aside their ability out there on the racetrack, they're all fantastic individuals as well, with real character traits which are fascinating. Really supreme bunch of drivers racing in supreme cars, these 488 Challenge cars.
Yeah, Barry did not get a win in last season of competition. He ran a very limited calendar, but he does have wins at 2 of the circuits that we are going to later in the series. They include WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, which everybody wants to win there, and he's also won in this series at Homestead and Montreal as well. So he's got that ability to look at the calendar and say,
there's some familiarity.
I can do this.
So the number 25 car of Ross Twest, ahead of Mark Musso, running in P8 at the moment. So Ferrari of Palm Beach and Ferrari of Ontario. And there you can see the margin between the two of them that has seesawed a bit, hasn't it, over the last few laps between Ross Twest and Mark Musso. Running in P7 and P8, both Trofeo Pirelli Pro drivers. The out-of-sequence Pro driver, if you like, as mentioned just a few moments ago, is Joe Rubo, who's running in P9 but P12 in the race overall.
Ross Twest is another one of those racing addicts. He's been a champion in several different iterations of one make series before in the past. Running out of Palm Beach is his dealership, but he's very familiar with the ocean. And if you actually Google him, you'll find out that there is a very large vessel named the Ross Twest. That's because that's his family and his business. They make these large offshore boats, and it's really fascinating to sort of dig into that a little bit. But Mark Musso, who was chasing him down out of Toronto, will be happy to get out of the snow for a little while with cold conditions. Welcome to Austin. He was the Trofeo Pirelli AM champion in 2017, trying to get back to the top step of the championship, but this time in overall, and that'll be another big step for him. He was 4th last year in the championship, only a couple of steps further up.
So Jim Wayland then, who now, by dint of him being able to be smooth, and Thomas Tippel has probably taken a lot more out of his tyres in his quest to try and get past Jim. He is not as close, nothing like as close as he has been, nor is Murray Rotlander. So here comes Jim Wayland. He's in the all-yellow car as we pick up the leader once again. This is Cooper Mcneal doing a very, very good job, although just had a loose moment there, didn't he?
And the gap between first and second has come down for the first time ever during this race. We have 11.5 minutes to go of this 30-minute contest. But could Benjamin eat this? Have something up his sleeve? Maybe he saved a little bit of his tires to try and challenge Cooper Mcneil.
Maybe so. And the challenge always best to come right at the end of the race. Oh, Zandor and Zeckelman there getting very, very close. This is the battle for P2 in the Trofeo Pirelli AM class. This is heating up towards the end of the race as well, or towards the final third of the race. We've got just over 11 minutes left to run in this Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli race, the first race of the season. So there we can see the Joseph Rubo car, which is really out of position, car number 28. You mentioned the almost chrome effect paintwork. It looks really, really good on that Joe Rubo car.
It really does, and a throwback to his championship livery. He sort of ran with a different livery last year and then realized, wait a minute, I didn't win a championship last year. I need to go back to the livery that is proven to work. And it wasn't a design that he came up with himself. It was actually something similar on the car when he bought it way back when. So
Thomas Teppel, forgive me interrupting you. Has he done it?
Oh.
No. Oh.
And it almost backfired on him too, because all of a sudden Murray Rothlander is right there in the 10 and looking around the outside of Thomas Tippel. Oh my goodness, James Wayland is looking in his mirrors going, uh-oh, this is going to be messy here soon.
Well, Thomas Tippel then, a really valiant effort. Didn't see it or expect it to come from there, but it did. It nearly worked, but what it has done, as you correctly identified, it's meant that he's dropped back a little bit from Jim Wayland, who's just able to escape it now. But of course, it's made him very vulnerable to Murray Rothlander.
And the battle from 4th down to 8th in the TP category right now is very much alike, because all 5 of those cars are together. If Jim Wayland opens the door and lets any one of them through, well, it could very easily be 8th position.
Stand by. Rotlander's going to have a go, isn't he? Going into turn number 1. He's going to try and get the inside line here. Thomas Tippel is going to do everything he can to defend, but it's all too late. What is it? Rotlander makes the car as wide as possible, and he goes through. So let's go down to the pit lane. Let's hear an update regarding Thomas Tippel.
Well, Dave, I had an interesting conversation yesterday with Thomas about moving up to this level of competition. Last year, as we noted, he won 10 races in a row, but he expected quite a bit of competition. Undaunted, however, he has gone after it. During qualifying today, you could sense a little bit of frustration. He had a clean lap going, but was cut off, and therefore fell a little bit further behind, but trying to make up for it right now, sliding that car around on the offensive, trying to move his way back up toward the front.
Thank you very much. Yes, Thomas Tippel then, having lost out to Murray Rothlander, he'll be furious about that, because actually, you know, the huge jump that he's made, I think he has really done it very, very well. And here was the effort then going back in replay against Jim Wayland. It was really bold and ambitious, not where I expected him to try and overtake. But of course, this is what led to Murray Rothlander being able to get right on terms.
Yes, and Murray Rothlander, a guy who has that big C on his side when we come into Circuit of the Americas, confidence, because he won here a year ago, but it took him until race 2 to get that victory. So he is looking to firmly plant his position on the podium here today, and he does have to get around that yellow car ahead of him, because James Wayland slowing him up from getting to Martin Burrows.
Oh no!
There was
contact. There was contact there. That's played into the hands of Thomas Tippel. You have to say, and I'm being very defensive here, Wayland has done nothing wrong.
Completely agree. Wayland has been driving his own race. He's been holding to his own lines, not swerving around, not blocking, not reacting. And that is the key that they look for in race control. That was just a little bit too ambitious by Murray Rothlander.
I mean, that's not an overtake place,
No.
is it? And, in fairness, it was, there was no way he was going to make that stick, to be fair. So...
And if Wayland's car hadn't been there, he would have continued spearing across the track.
You're right.
So he would have potentially gone track limits the other side of the circuit.
Yes.
It's an unfortunate incident, but the good news is everybody lives to fight another day.
Of course, what it's done is really dropped him down the order now. It's played into the hands of Thomas Tippel, who's back in contention again, but Rothlander has dropped right down the order, showing on our timing screen at the moment as potentially being down in P9 now, just ahead of Barry Zeckelman. But this is the Mark Musso car that we're looking at, the blue and yellow livery of Mark Musso, car number 13, one of the Trofeo Pirelli Pro runners. The order is Cooper Mcneal leading by some 3.295 seconds. Benjamin Hietez is P2. Martin Burrows is P3. That's the order in Trofeo Pirelli Pro. In AMS, it's Fuller P1, P8 in the race overall. Then it's Barry Zeckelman, and then Gandor is P3. And that is the number 24 car of Gandor that we were talking about. And good to see that car. There is the number 42 Ferrari 488 car of Fuller, who's leading the AM classification. So just 6 minutes, and a bit like the Cooper Shell race earlier on today, all of a sudden, where has 24 minutes of racing gone?
Well, for Cooper Mcneal and Mark Fuller leading from the green flag, it's gone very, very slowly.
Yes,
for us,
yes.
It has flown by. When you're leading a race, the checkered flag can't come out quickly enough, as we do now have visual confirmation that Murray Rothlander has been able to continue around. But yes, he is behind Mark Fuller, so any opportunity of a top 5 finish now out the window. Terrible points day.
Well, yes, and I just think that was really, I don't know, that was a really bold move. This is the number 28 car of Joe Rubo then, running in P9 in class, but P12 overall. The Ferrari of Long Island driver being pursued there. And Joe Rubo then in the number 28 car, extraordinarily being pursued by Morici in the number 72 Trofeo Pirelli AM car.
And we should give credit to Todd Morici because he has set the fastest lap so far of the Trofeo Pirelli AM category. Todd Morici is an absolute Ferrari fanatic. He is the president of a dealership that sells Ferraris in New York City. His passion is Ferrari. And he is also in the Ferrari Historic Challenge series, where he has been the champion in a 512 BBLM.
Wow, that's a car. So Todd Morici then, as now see Joe Rubo has managed to find himself now in P11 overall. Gandor down to P12 in the race overall. You were mentioning the fastest laps there, and to give some credit to Cooper Mcneal, his best lap, a 2:12.904. That's compare that to the best Trofeo Pirelli AM lap, a 2:16.149. It's quite a margin between Pirelli and Pirelli AM, isn't it?
But to show the difference in the track between last year and this year, and last year they were using different curbing. If you notice on the side of the circuit, there are bright orange areas, and they are much bigger triangles this year than they were last year, because when we came last year, they were using the F1 level of curbing, which is a lot less aggressive.
Yes.
This year they have the big cones out there, so people can't straight line as many corners as perhaps they were last year. The fastest time of the weekend was the pole time set by Cooper Mcneal. That was a 2:09.158. The big difference is when you have to actually stick to the pavement in between the colors.
It's interesting, and that's a that's a conversation which I have to say I'm delighted we've seen no warnings with regards to track limits, because, and this is always an argument, and you may have a different opinion to mine, and that is if there was a wall there and not a curb, you wouldn't explore going out of the track limits.
Yep.
So not going out of the track limits, in fact, getting very, very close and doing it millimetrically perfectly, perhaps less so than Benjamin Hietez, who's following, was Cooper Mcneal.
Benjamin just wanted to see what it would feel like to drive over the exit curbs at turn 20, perhaps.
Listening
Not
to
good.
us.
Not good is the answer.
Dave Musial and Kaminsky then, the two cars that you can see in our picture now, that P5 and P6 position in the Trofeo Pirelli AM class, Ferrari of Long Island versus Ferrari Lake Forest. All those names sound so romantic and evocative.
Don't they just, though? Oh. Brian Kaminsky, who is another one of those drivers with a very good coach in his ears. That would be Matt Plum, a guy who's won here and had a heartbreak here at Circuit of the Americas both, but will be trying to help his driver stave off the number 30, and he can't do it. Musial goes around the outside at 19 and stays within the track limits. Impressive move.
Oh
and
no!
Then he spins.
Now that was you. Commentator's curse or what? You know, he'd done all the hard work, hadn't he?
Oh,
and
he
now,
did.
oh.
I apologize, Dave. I won't compliment you anymore. I'm sorry. That was a beautiful pass around the outside of 19, though.
It was.
Just a little bit too much momentum carried through into 20. He was nowhere near the apex.
No.
Oh.
What a shame. let's quickly look at this car.
That would be Brent Walton. Scuderia Cava represented there. And Brent Walton, another one of the drivers with the beautiful livery on the car, reminiscent of an old American fighter plane. Gotta see it up close and personal. It is fantastic.
Well, there is the car in all its glory then. Currently running in that P6 position in the Trofeo Pirelli AM class. I remind you once again, all the information you can find about the drivers, the cars, the series at racist.ferrari.com. As the cars come downhill now in weather conditions that are somewhat nicer for the racing this afternoon than we had for qualifying earlier on, and certainly for that drive in to the circuit from our hotel this morning.
Yes.
Jim Wayland then will get my award for being absolutely unfazed by anyone attacking him from behind. He's going to be disappointed that he's not on the podium, I'm sure, but he's been stoic in that P4 position. And here is our race leader then, Cooper Mcneal, who with a 3.288 margin in that P1 position, it has to be said, hasn't looked at all threatened during the course of the race, right from the very start, knew exactly what he'd got to do. Has to be said, I mean, Cooper's a nice guy, 7'8" tall, massive guy. He does a lot of racing.
He does.
And, you know, Cooper Mcneal is doing a very, very good job. He was, not surprisingly, he was fastest in qualifying once he'd done that. But it was interesting, that information that we got from Mike earlier on about the fact that this is effectively a spare car. It's not the real car. So Cooper is piloting it very well, it has to be said.
Yes, as he so often does, and he's got good coaching on his side. He's got Alessandro Balzan here this weekend.
It was nice to see Alessandro
Isn't
earlier.
it great to see him?
We had lunch almost with him. He was on the next table.
Yes, but he still was kind enough to say hi. And he says
guy.
ciao.
Yeah.
He doesn't say hi. I love Alessandro. He's one of the real bright spots. He's got his co-drivers from the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship here this weekend as well. Jeff Westphal was here.
Yeah.
Jeff is coaching another driver in the series, though, as a matter of fact, Thomas Tipple, who we've been saying such nice things about. So slightly awkward if Thomas Tipple were to beat Cooper, but Cooper doesn't have to worry about the competition. He just needs to tear out the rear view mirror from the cockpit of his car, focus forward, and that's exactly what he's done today.
And he's done it with aplomb, hasn't he? He's
Yes.
not looked threatened at all. He's just nailed perfectly every lap. You know, when you look at, and if you were to make, and we were talking about whether Cooper Mcneal was making a video earlier on in qualifying when he was very, very sideways for a lot of the lap. But if you're going to make a film about driving a perfect line in different conditions in terms of tyre degradation, then Cooper would have done a brilliant job for you. Right, he's got one more turn to do before he will see the checkered flag. Well, this is going to play into the hands of Benjamin Hites, or is it? It's going to be neck and neck. It's a photo finish, but Benjamin Hites has just done it from Cooper Mcneal, who, for whatever reason, just seemed to lose it on the final turn.
I'm in complete awe. There's nothing to say about that. Cooper manhandled this race. He had one more turn to get around, turn 20, and the back end of the car just stepped out on him.
He didn't look out of shape going into the turn.
Oh my goodness. Well, Cooper Mcneal's day went from being perfect to being a nightmare. That's exactly what you don't want to happen. That's dreaming about being on stage in front of 1,000 people and then realizing you forgot to put your clothes on that morning. Cooper Mcneal will be mortified, and Benjamin Hites will be thrilled to bits because this is his second win at Circuit of the Americas, and somebody else spun in the back.
Now, who was that? Who was that went round?
It was somebody a little bit further down in Trofeo Pirelli AM. It might have been Todd Marici. It was a bright red Ferrari. Has not yet seen the checkered flag. Would have had to have been Todd Marici, but no positions lost. But
extraordinary, right in the closing stages of this race.
Very, very much so. I have to pull my jaw up off the ground and give credit. Congratulations also to Mark Fuller, the winner in the AND category. Second was Barry Zeckman, and third, it was Ziad Gandauer in that number 24 machine. Overall, still in shock here in the booth. Congratulations, Benjamin Ethis and the collection for coming away with the win. Cooper Mcneal, who dominated this race, finishes second for Ferrari of Westlake in the number 63. And Martin Burrows, having made the pass on James Weiland very early on, brings home third for Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale. What a race. Dave, I don't even know where to begin.
Absolutely extraordinary race right in the closing stages. And let's take a look at the highlights then of race 1 in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli at the Circuit of the Americas then. Cooper Mcneal had put the car in pole position and didn't look at all threatened right at the start of the race, that's for sure. Elsewhere, it was very exciting as various drivers would get out of shape. Would that play into the hands of others, the likes of Gandor here, but not quite. Thomas Tipple and James Weiland were having a real battle. However, Thomas Tipple's adventure to try and overtake James Weiland here would play into the hands of Murray Rocklander behind him. But it was all going to go horribly wrong, as you can see. Car spinning off into the dust. So the extraordinary livery of the number 30 car would feature Dave Mcneil. However, Dave Mcneil, when it came to the final turn, the car would be resplendent, but resplendent for spinning round. This was our race leader on the final lap, the final turn. Cooper Mcneal kept his wits about him, but it wouldn't be enough to come back and take the win of the race. That would go to Benjamin Ethis, who kept his cool and took the win against the odds right at the end of the race. I still can't get over that finish.
Wow, wow, wow.
Extraordinary race.
That is going to be worth a conversation with Benjamin Ethis for sure when he gets out of the car, because that young man won't know what happened either. He'll have seen the Ferrari facing sideways, the white one ahead of him, but for Benjamin Ethis, the best possible result and 0.2 of a second behind him at the checkered flag, Cooper Mcneal. So the drag race nearly paid off. Martin Burrows bringing the car home in third for Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale. Fourth, James Weiland with a great effort to drive his own race. Thomas Tipple was fifth. Mark Muzzo in sixth. Ross Schwest, seventh. Murray Rocklander with that brilliant Spider-Man livery on the side, eighth. And Joe Rubo comes home in ninth for Trofeo Pirelli. In the AM class, looked a little bit different. It was Mark Fuller who led the way from the green flag, bringing it home for a win. Barry Zeckelman is second in car number 99. Ziad Gandauer is third in car number 24 for Boardwalk Ferrari. Todd Morici with a great showing comes home fourth, and fifth, Brett Holden in number 14. Sixth on the chart was Brian Kaminsky, who looked strong at various points over the course of the race. Dave Musial in car number 30 finishes seventh. And not taking the start of the race was car number 23, John McGrew, who had a crash in practice 2 days ago.
I still do not know quite what to say about that.
Yes, there will be a lot to be said after the end of that race, and ultimately only one man knows what happened there, but he has an opportunity for redemption tomorrow. That's the best news, because there is still another race to come on Sunday where we will see, I'm sure, a lot more of, unspent aggression. People waiting to try and get to the second race before they go a little bit crazy.
I just, I've replayed it in my mind over and over and over again. He didn't look like he was out of shape going into the final turn. It didn't look like he was carrying too much speed. I don't know. I'm just hoping that we're going to be able to find out a little bit more, but it was extraordinary. The most curious finish to a race I've seen for a long time.
Very much so. It gives us a lot to talk about. The good news is we have an opportunity to continue around this tomorrow. As for the championship, well, last year it was Cooper Mcneal who ran away with the championship, taking it over Peter Ludwig after missing a round. And for today, he, for the first time in a long time, is not the points leader of the Ferrari Challenge North America. It's been probably 9 months in the calendar year since Cooper was not leading the points. But it will be Benjamin Ethis, the 19-year-old.
Well, there we have it. It was an extraordinary end to what has been an extraordinary race in Trofeo Pirelli. And, well, from my colleague alongside me, Shay, and from myself, thank you so much for watching. And, well, we look forward to tomorrow already. Bye-bye for now.